if I don't walk out of that door in 90 minutes. Don't hesitate, don't mess around, don't wonder, just call the cops. That was the last thing I said to my wife before I stepped out of the minivan and walked up the sidewalk to a small house of a guy I had met on the internet. And the reason we had driven 50 miles to this guy's house was so that I could float in his sensory deprivation tank. And if you're not familiar with the sensory deprivation tank, I want you to picture a giant metal coffin partway full of water. Just wait, it's gonna get a little weirder. The people who own sensory deprivation tanks at this time, they were the people who kept them in the darkest corners of their basements. And as I was down there, I'm thinking to myself, as I'm taking off all of my clothes, I'm about to step inside this tank and close the door in on top of me. Thinking to myself, what an embarrassing way to die. I mean, what would my friends say? He did what? I could just see the Dateline promo for the show, man volunteers to be human pet for life. Now you might be wondering to yourself, why on earth would a person put themselves in this sort of strange situation? And I'm going to answer that. But before I do, I want to talk to you about Post-it notes. See, I'm a professional facilitator, and I get to work with teams of all different kinds. I work with teams with great culture, teams that are dysfunctional, and other teams that are complete train wreck. But the one thing all of these teams have in common is how they respond to the words warm-up exercise. Because all teams think that they are too professional to do any sort of warm-up exercise. And let me tell you, every team needs a warm-up exercise. And so one of my most favorite warm-up exercises, I'd like to ask them just finish this sentence. What's most inspiring about my life lately is. And let them sit with that for just a moment. And then I turn up the heat just a little bit more by saying, oh yeah, by the way, you can't write it, you have to draw it. And every time I get the exact same reaction, a collective groan by the group, and then right on cue, someone says, I can't draw. Me neither. Now come on, it's a 3x3 piece of paper. How hard could it be? Who here cannot draw a stick figure family? And the experts would probably tell you that it's fear that's driving this. Fear of embarrassing themselves, fear of rejection, all those different kinds of fear. But I honestly think after years of doing this, I think it's something else. And it's logic. I think these leaders are asking themselves, they're wondering to themselves, how's this gonna end? And if they don't have a really clear answer, well, then it may not be worth the effort. And I'll give you an example. I learned this from my 8-year-old daughter when I was trying to convince her to go out for volleyball camp. Conversation goes like this. I don't want to go out for volleyball camp. Why not? All of your friends will be there. Well, I'm not very good at volleyball. Of course you're not. You're 8 years old. That's why you go to camp. Well, that's why I don't want to go. I'm going to spare you the 15 minutes of circling around this conversation over and over again. But here's my 8-year-old daughter who's already figured out doing the cost-benefit analysis. She's doing the math and asking herself, hey, is this going to be worth it? If I put in all of this energy and time, is this going to be worth my effort?